Hi, welcome back to class. Today we are talking about empiricism. Uh, oh my God, thank God we are all here today. It's so good to see you again if you're coming here again. So, before we get into this class, I would like to ask you a question. How many times this week have you seen a headline that says that science claims this, that, or science confirms that, and you believed it without actually checking? That is where empiricism comes in. Empiricism is the principle that separates real evidence from persuasive noise. And once you understand it, you will never read research claim or any research claim the same again. So I am Viola. Welcome to my class. If you're new here, welcome to my channel and welcome to this class. And this is episode 15 of my psychological class. All right. So, what is empiricism? Empiricism, as I said before, is the principle that knowledge must be based on observation and evidence, not tradition, not authority, not intuition, or what simply feels true. What does this mean? It means that if a claim cannot be observed, tested, or measured, it does not count as scientific knowledge. Okay, right. So, the philosophy itself of empiricism has deep roots. Okay, so you see, we're going to talk about some few psychologists or philosophers or scholars. So you see, John Locke, David Hume, and Francis Bacon worked in the 17th and 18th century. They pushed back against the idea that knowledge could come from purely reason or from authority of scholars or religious texts. They argued rather that real knowledge comes from the world. What does that mean? That means it comes from direct observation. Okay, and from this observation, this is where evidence can be gotten from. All right. So, why does it matter in psychology? For psychology, this was very transformative. Okay, before empiricism was applied to the field, claims about human behavior were largely philosophical opinions, and guys, is they were so interesting. Yeah, we're going to learn about history of psychology very soon, and yeah, we're going to see some of those things. Okay, so that time, because there was no empiricism, most of the claims about human behavior were philosophical opinions. They came from, very good scholars, people that feel like they had the reasoning to be able to give answers, right? So after empiricism, psychology had the tools to test most of the claims that the philosophers made and to discard the ones that failed the test. Okay, so that is why empiricism is not just a historical concept, it is the operating principle behind every legitimate study in this series. All right, great. Now we have established that. Let's go to the next slide. So you can see that on the left, this is an empirical claim. People who meditate for 10 minutes daily show measurable reductions in cortisol levels after 8 weeks. Now, this is very observable. You can observe this. This is measurable. Okay, it is measurable. You can see these timelines over here. Excuse me, this is testable, right? You can test this, you can. And also it's empirical, right? Because now that these three things can be done, This makes it empirical. Okay. So now this is an opinion, right? Which is meditation makes you calmer. It sounds true, it feels true, sounds reasonable. Okay, but calmer is not defined. This cannot be measured. What can how can we measure calmer? How do we measure this? How do we measure the difference now? How do we measure it across different people? Right? You see, this cannot be tested. It can't. Okay. Or another claim is children exposed to bilingual environments before the age of 5 score higher on executive function test. Now this is based on observation. Someone observed this, they sat down, they observed this, and then they made a claim. Okay, after observing, it was tested, and after testing, this is what made it empirical, right? Rather than an opinion like speaking two languages makes children smarter. This is undefined, it is unmeasurable, it cannot really be observed, because how do you define smarter? How do you you know how do you define this? What's smart? What makes How do you define smarter? I know, right? Like, how do you do that? You can't measure smartness, can you? I don't think you can. So this is a belief, this is an opinion. Okay. So let's use let's apply this to a real life example. So meet Daniel. All right, Daniel is a journalist and he has read a viral headline that says scientists confirm positive thinking cures anxiety. So, first of all, that's a claim that they have made. The article cites no study name. It doesn't cite any sample size. So that means nobody has tested this. Nobody has, they don't have anything on this, okay? And it hasn't been tested on anybody yet, right? There is no sample size for this. Okay? And there is no even a measurement method for this. Because how do you measure this? Right? It quotes that on maybe the quotes. It quotes that maybe an unnamed researcher said that scientists has confirmed that positive thinking cures anxiety. So now Daniel instinct, like most people, is to share it. Right? Now he goes on and he wants to share it. He feels like sharing it because this sounds hopeful. This sounds very true. It feels true. Okay. But rather, Daniel applies empiricism. He applies this principle that I'm just talking about right now before he posts or shared this claim. Was this observed? How do you know if something is observed? How do you know if a claim is observed? Does that claim have references? Is it referenced to anybody's studies or research? There are no names that's backing this particular claim that, okay, I tested this and yes, it worked. Okay, I tested it on a sample size of 100 participants and yes, it worked. And nobody even has made the observation. Nobody has sat down to observe it. To see, okay, does positive thinking really Nobody has done that. Was it measured? This is now Daniel is applying empiricism to this claim he has seen online. Okay, can it be repeated? If it's tested over and over again by different researchers in different places with different people, can it be repeated? Will the results be the same? Would there be similar results? Huh? So the answer to all these three questions is no. Because you've not seen anything, you've not seen any evidence that backs up this claim. You have applied the empiricism principle to this. So this means that the claim fails every empirical standard. Alright? So this is the reality, and this is actually backed up by actual research. It's more nuanced, right? So Hoffman and others, 2012 meta-analysis published in Cognitive Therapy and Research showed that structured psychological interventions like cognitive behavioral therapy significantly reduced anxiety symptoms. Okay, so now you see that, wow, somebody has he tested with other people, okay, and he tested something much more observable, much more measurable, which is cognitive behavioral therapy significantly reduces anxiety symptoms. You see that there are variables that are connecting to each other. So now it can be tested, it can be measured. Do you get it? So now that is an empirical claim. Okay? This is empirical evidence. Alright? Positive thinking as an unstructured belief is not something that can be measured. Okay, so Daniel has used the empiricism principle, and he does not share the article to others. Now he has stopped himself from misinforming other people. All right, because guess what, you will see that claim and then you are expecting results, which is curing. Maybe you have anxiety, you're expecting that positive thinking is supposed to cure anxiety, and it doesn't happen. And you're like, I thought scientists said this. Well, did you check? Have you tested it? Have you checked whether have you applied empiricism to it? Okay, so now Daniel has seen this. He's a journalist. He has seen this article. He does not share it. He rather writes a piece explaining the difference between the claim and the evidence. So he goes and he rather go get something that is much more evidence-backed, research-backed. Okay. And then he uses this rather to write his paper. So that is empiricism in action. So now you see Daniel's paper, and then you get something beneficial. You get something that produces real results. All right. So what is our key takeaway? Number one, empiricism means knowledge must come from observation and evidence, not from what feels right or what someone in authority says. Number two, if a claim cannot be observed or measured or tested, it is not scientific knowledge. No matter how many times it is repeated, it is not scientific knowledge. Thank you. Number three, and applying empiricism in your daily life to what you read, what you share, what you believe, what you talk about, what you reference to. You see, even in some conversation, you go like, science said. Please be careful. Be actually careful. That's why sometimes when I'm having some conversation, I go like, yes, this is research backed up because I have applied empiricism and I've seen that this is research backed up. And if something isn't research backed up, I'll make sure that I say it. I'll say it's not research backed, but I would like to use it to explain this situation. Okay, so that I do not use false claims. Okay, so this protects you from flood of misinformation dressed as research. You may think it's not harmful now. It is. It is actually, because someone can read a scientific claim and try to apply it to their lives or to the lives of others, and they just don't get the results they expected. All right, so in my next class, we're going to talk about the three research methods. Please remember, because I'm going to just start with them. Okay, so the three research methods known as the descriptive research, which is number one research method that I'm going to talk about, um, what it is, when it is used, and why it matters. From there, we are going to talk about others like case study, observation, surveys, and all that. Okay, so I'll see you in my next class. Bye. Oh my god.